So before I get started, I would like to acknowledge the Gadigal people from the Eora Nation. Those people are living, have been living for thousands, hundreds and thousands years on this land. And I really would like to pay my respect to them as I'm going to share my research about co-creating healthy futures with adolescents in the Pacific Islands and Australia. I think I would like to say a few words as well about all of the communities and Indigenous people who have been very patient with us and have been amazing in terms of sharing their time, their knowledge with the team as we were progressing with this project. So what I want to present today is a project called APY for Australia and Pacific Youth Project. And it's about co-creating healthy futures with adolescents in the Pacific Islands and Australia. And I think it comes from these realizations that Australia is located in the Pacific. Pacific Islands are located in the Pacific. So we are co-located in a big ocean. But what I've learned, because I'm an immigrant from Australia, I'm coming from Europe, but what I've learned about this region is how much and for how long people have been traveling and communicating with each other and really getting contact in between the different islands and including in Australia. So I think the idea of this project is a kind of what can we do to try to renew those links around topics that are actually very important for young people across the whole region. So in this project, there's many different people involved, and you're going to see that, such a project cannot happen without a big network. But I would like to acknowledge the work and the leadership of my colleagues. So Rowena Forsyth, who is on this call as well, and Christina Amond. We touch on different things during this in this project, but digital technologies is a very important aspect. We have also Associate Professor Luisa Peralta here in the University of Sydney School of Education, who has a focus on physical education more specifically, and lifestyles, and Dr. Juliana Chen, who has an expertise in nutrition and diets. So what is the framework in which we have positioned this project, where we start from the standing point that young people in the Pacific region are under the influences of big changes and sometimes threats, including climate change and the digital transition. And we really wanted to know how these two different big influences and transitions were affecting their lifestyles, how it's affecting their local systems and their context, and more specifically around two aspects, which were physical activity and diets. And I guess we were interested in those topics because there's lots of data, not just in the Pacific Islands, but globally, and including Australia and the Pacific Islands, showing that the modification in young people context put them at risk of becoming very sedentary people and having diets that are not optimal for their health. So globally, numbers show us that young people are not sufficiently active and that their diets are poor. And in the Pacific Islands, unfortunately, a large proportion of young people cluster those two risk factors for the development, for example, of obesity or non-communicable disease. So about 76% of young people are not sufficiently active and have poor diets. So we really wanted to question how all of these changes and influences affect adolescents' health and well-being. But I guess starting from what research and peer research were telling us, we wanted to know what were the adolescents' perspectives on these aspects and what were the priorities they were identifying for their health and well-being. We also started from the position and from international statements saying that adolescents and young people need to have a voice in the decision we take and in the research we conduct. So we really wanted as well to understand the role they could play as change agents and social connectors in their communities. So what were our research questions? So the main questions we were asking through collaboration with adolescents and the community were how shall we engage with adolescents to co-develop research and innovation priorities for the health and well-being? And how shall we conduct a co-produce research or advocacy outputs with young people themselves? So this phase was how can we achieve empowerment in young people in the region? I just wanted to say words about funding. I know that it may not be core of this presentation, but I really wanted to acknowledge the fact that such a project cannot happen without connecting with lots of different networks and communities. We worked with schools, which means we engage with schools in the region. So we needed to travel. We really wanted to engage in country, in places and in communities with people and adolescents. And for that, you need funding. So I want to make a point saying that within this project, we were very lucky to benefit from different sources of funding. Some of them were state funding, local funding, University of Sydney funding, and some of them were international funding through Europe and the Horizon 2020 funding schemes. And I just wanted to say that because you may have learned that Australia may join the European Union funding scheme, which would be a great opportunity. So when I say we worked in Pacific Islands, we haven't worked with all of the Pacific Islands and countries. There's a lot, but the countries we engaged the most with were New Caledonia, Vanuatu, Solomon Islands, and then we've started to engage but haven't really pushed into implementing our projects in Fiji and PNG. So this is just to give you an aspect of where we went and the communities we engage with. So I wanted to share a few words about how do we engage. And I mean, a lot of us in the team hadn't traveled to the Pacific Islands before we started this project. And we were very lucky to be part of this large European project that was named FALA. And through FALA, we connected with a network of researchers, of Pacific researchers, Pacific scholars, Pacific leaders, Pacific communities involved in different works. And it was for us an immense opportunity to actually visit places, engage with communities in country, and to learn from the people. So how did we engage? Well, we spent a lot of time before we even started to work on the methodology of the project, being with people, sharing time, sharing stories, observing, trying to get a sense of what communities, the environments in which communities were living, and trying to understand how we could engage with young people in this context. So through this project, the APY project went together with the FALA project. So we attended a lot of their workshops. We presented at their workshops, seminars. We engage in communities on site. So for example, on the right side of this slide, this is when we visited a specific association in Fiji who was trying to engage young people into growing food and really trying to understand the difference between whole food and processed food. You can see as well that we engage with researchers in formal context, researchers from different countries, researchers from Solomon Islands, for example, at the table here. And there was a lot of time that was spent into sharing ideas and trying to understand what could be the best methodologies for us to engage with the young people. So the first slides were really engaging with adults, and progressively we had the opportunity to engage with additional people in the communities, to engage with young people in schools, to get into the school and trying to understand the context. Did the school had computers access? How big was the school? Do they have playgrounds? Is there any gardens in the school? Where the food come from? Is this a boarding school, etc.? So there was a lot of work trying to understand the context. And then when we, I think, had a bit of an idea of how the context looked like, then we started to frame the project. And we said, well, it's going to be amazing if we can engage young people in co-design, but maybe at the beginning we need to maybe explain a little bit better and engage with them so they can understand what we're trying to do. So we separated the project in 3 different phases, with phase 1 being research activities and project mostly led by researchers. So our team getting into the school context and trying to understand the young people perspective. Then a phase 2 where we wanted to use the ideas they had shared during phase 1 to get a group of student leaders who could actually pitch their ideas to Pacific leaders or researchers. And then a phase 3 where actually young people would be able to lead their own research agenda and lead research project. So in the way we wanted to, we designed phase 1 through the different workshops. We attended iterative process with people and researchers from Australia and the Pacific and from Europe. We were guided by Pacific scholars, by the way people in the Pacific exchange ideas through talk stories, through Talanoa. And then we collectively thought that it would be a good idea to design a material that would be paper-based, a bit of a booklet where young people could collaborate without minimal interactions with researchers, because most of them have never met researchers, so we didn't want to influence. We wanted as well to create something that was trauma-informed, so instead of directly asking questions, working around scenarios. So with all of that in mind, we designed scenarios, and these scenarios were proposed in a self-directed booklet. And in the middle here, you can see students as a group of 3, 4, 5 students going through the booklet and discussing the scenarios and providing answers to the question we would ask. We had also the opportunity to record the explanation of the drawings, because to be inclusive and mindful of different languages, different levels in literacy, we accepted that answers in the booklet could be provided in writing or in the format of drawings. So it created really a space where young people could engage as a group and discuss the scenarios that were proposed and provide answers or share their ideas about the situations of the personas in the scenarios. What was particularly amazing was the drawing side of it. So that's why I decided to share some of those. And what we found particularly amazing is all of those drawings here, for example, have been drawn by young people attending schools in very remote areas in New Caledonia and in Vanuatu. And what I think is particularly, there's a few things that are very interesting. So for example, here you can see that in terms of technology, this was one aspect that was very big interest to us. You can see that young people are so well informed. So one thing we learned with these drawings is really to really be open and drop all the biases we may have, because it means that young people, even in communities that we may think are remote, have access to internet, and they look for solutions and are very curious in terms of looking into different ways of how technology can support their health. Another thing that was very interesting is the way young people from different gender would represent themselves. And it was very interesting to see how women were represented and how women were represented in connection to using technologies to influence the health and well-being.
2 minutes.
Yeah, 2 minutes. Okay, thank you so much, Georgie. So, so this was what I've just presented was really what we did during phase 1, where we came into the school and engaged with young people with a specific scenario. But in Vanuatu, we did something a little bit different. We get into phase two, and then I wanted to share that because that was pretty amazing. So after engaging using those booklets in the classroom, we offered the opportunity to the young people to pitch their ideas, the ideas they developed in the booklet. And most of them were solutions for their health. And we thought that maybe, 10 or 20 students would like to do that, but all of the students we engaged with wanted to present. So we organized a full session during a research workshop held during the FALA conference. So the young people could actually pitch their ideas to the leaders who were present in the room. I'm just going to play this video. It's only a 1-minute video. Okay, thank you. And just to conclude, looking ahead, we really want to continue to engage in co-design. We have, I think, a methodology that really enables us to engage in a safe way with young people across different countries in the region and to give them a voice for their future. Thank you.